Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sea.
This is Jan Lewis. Welcome to my guest today. We have Chris Sawyer. Chris is the co-author of the book Denholmes. Many of you probably remember, Denholm McKay, the famous store in Worcester. And I read about my guest, Christopher Sawyer, and Patricia Wolf, she's the other co-author, in the was it the Worcester magazine?
Worcester Living.
Worcester Living.
Yeah.
How did they find you? Through Preservation?
They found me. We did an event with Preservation Worcester a year ago at the building, and they contacted me to do a small story on Denholmes for the holiday issue. And it ended up being that they came in and photographed my Denholmes collection of memorabilia. So
how did you get all this memorabilia? You're younger than a lot of the people that went there.
I've been collecting since I was 13.
But you went there with your parents to shop?
With my grandmother worked there. I was 5 when the store closed, but back in the 80s she always talked about Denholmes. And back in the 80s she worked at another store in Worcester, and we were at lunch. And they were turning the building into offices, and she asked the construction, because I said, we're going in, we have to go in. Yeah. And so she asked the construction men, can I take my grandson in to see? And I saw the last glimpse of Denholmes before it was converted and fell in love instantly. And it's changed my life.
Big elevator, right, in the middle. Because by the time... it completely turned. It wasn't Denholmes anymore the way you knew it.
Yeah.
It was, I think, Social Security.
Yeah, they were in there.
I remember one time I took someone in there and the elevator was kaput.
Yeah.
And I figured, how are we going to get... So we literally had to walk the elevator to get upstairs.
Yeah.
This book is fantastic. What he does is he takes you through all the different stores. I mean, not the stores, the different floors of the building. And... I was telling you, my father used to sell tie gift wrapping, and they were the, of choice, the gift wrapping for Denholmes, Denholm McKay.
Yeah.
When was Denholmes built?
Originally the company started on Main and Mechanic Street in 1871, where Shaq's was, the men's store. And then in 1882, Lewis Clark from Clark University built the building at 484 Main Street, and they were the first floor tenants.
They were just on the first floor?
Just the first floor, and next to them was a millinery store.
So now when did it become the one that people knew, the big one?
Really as offices were being vacated on the upper floors, Denholmes kept buying it out, the space. So it was really by 1910 that they had acquired the entire building.
Now, my grandfather graduated Clark in 1908.
Yeah.
So he probably, and his wife, they probably shopped there.
Oh, absolutely. Everybody did. I mean, for that city was thriving in those days.
How many floors were there?
Originally, there were 5, and then a basement, and then in 1916, they added on the 6th floor. And that was a tea room originally.
So they had a little snack room, too. You could go in and have something to eat.
Yeah, they had a basement restaurant, which operated from the 40s until it closed. But it was really the tea room on the 6th floor is where people would go.
And they had everything from clothes to gift wrap to... I mean, I'm looking at this. Draperies, rugs, lamps. I had no idea. Luggage. Of course, I grew up in Wilbraham, so we didn't shop. We went to Springfield. We didn't come out to Worcester.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when did you start writing this great book?
We started back in 2010. We started to write the book and pull everything together. And it took about a year of research from everything that I had collected, going through all my memorabilia, and then going with the historical museum, the library, interviews. It was about a year-long project.
About a year long. That's not too long.
No. Oh, God, it was a labor of love. I was like, I love history.
And you've been appearing many different places. You've been at Tatnach. Where else have you been?
Tatnach, the historical museum, the Worcester Library, countless senior centers. I love giving talks at senior
one right
centers.
Here now.
Love it. I love that generation. Yeah. It's been WCCA TV.
I used to be on that.
In Worcester. Yeah. I'm blanking right now, but there's probably been about 25 that I've done.
I can imagine, yeah. I mean, this whole area, Worcester County, Blackstone Valley, you got a lot of people out there that kind of grew up around here.
Oh, absolutely, and with the rich history of this area too. And
Yeah.
for if you couldn't go into Boston and you were closer to Worcester, Worcester at that time was like a really viable city. It was thriving during the Industrial Revolution. And up until probably the mid '70s. And then industry started closing down like it did everywhere. But, it was my grandmother always said it was like being in New York City.
Well, when I see everything, they had everything from wigs,
Mm-hmm.
a bridal salon,
Mm-hmm.
sportswear, budget sportswear.
Yeah, it was a full service store. It was, we think of department stores nowadays like Macy's.
Walmart.
And Walmart,
Yeah.
and back in the golden age of retail, back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, I mean, they were almost like a community center where people would meet. You'd spend the day, you'd have your hair done, you'd go have lunch, and you would just, stay in the store all day.
Chris, how
and do
did you
your
get a
shopping.
hold of the wonderful pictures?
Some of them were from my grandmother. She had a big archive that she collected. And then, like I said, I've been collecting since I was 13. Imagery and everything from the store. So I've got roughly like 3,000 photos right now of the store.
Oh, I'm looking
that
at the
I've
way the girls are
collected.
dressed, my God.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, so
I know.
conservative.
It was I know, but so beautiful at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. We were talking about Anthony Samarco,
Mhm.
and he is a well-known author in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
And he has written books like Lost Boston. And Chris is right there with him. And there's a talk show at 9 on BZ called Bradley J Talk.
Yeah.
And he has once in a while, he has some really good guests. And I'm thinking that our friend here, Chris,
Oh,
would
I
be
love it. I love talking
perfect
about
for
that.
that.
house. I love it.
just perfect.
Yeah.
A change downtown.
Yeah.
So, did it happen suddenly that they said, that's it, we're closing?
No, what ended up happening was everyone thought it was because the Worcester Galleria opened
Yeah.
in 1971. They had pulled a lot of retailers from Main Street, so there were vacancies. But after the first year, Denholm's was doing great. It did have a slump in sales when the mall opened. But what really happened is the families of the company sold it out to another gentleman, and Denholm's paid for everything in cash. Had a lot of equity.
Wow.
And he siphoned off all the equity to fund his other businesses that were failing.
So Denholm was a real person.
Mr. Denholm, yep, and Mr. McKay.
What happened
Yep.
to Mr. McKay all of it?
Mr. Denholm's only survived, I think, the first 5 years after they moved 484 Main Street, and then he passed away. And within the next 5 years, Mr. McKay also passed away.
It just shows you how far our medical help has come a long way.
Yeah, because they were both young, like
Young.
60s, early 60s.
Oh, that's...
Yeah. And they never got to see the powerhouse that it became. It was thriving then, but they
Yeah.
never got to see what an institution the store became.
It hasn't changed its front name.
No, I'm very lucky. They still refer to it as the Denholm Building. And for so many people, it's still an icon of the city. The building, the facade has, changed a little bit when they made it into offices.
Yeah.
They widened the windows, but it's still, people always say, like, oh, all right, meet me in front of Denholm's, pick
Yeah.
me up there.
When you were a
know.
kid and you walked in, were you like overwhelmed when you went in there?
When I was little, I very vividly remember my grandmother taking me in and going to work with her, and I remember going up the escalators. That was the first time I had ever been on an escalator.
Yeah.
But she would always bring me to the display room, and the display people would watch. And it's so funny because they would watch over me for the day, and then that's the career I chose, was going into display, from being
Is that
at
what you do?
Denholm's. Yeah, that's what I do.
Tell us about that.
I've been working in that field, right out of high school. I started with Jordan Marsh, and then I went to Neiman Marcus. I was with them for 11 years, and then I was with Ralph Lauren for 13 years, and I just left Ralph about a year and a half ago.
So you would do the window displays?
Yeah, do the window displays, do the interior displays.
Is that fun?
Oh, I love
Yeah,
it.
okay, you
I love
All right,
it.
It's obvious, yeah.
Oh, it's a labor of love.
So you love to put the clothes on the mannequins? And
Yeah, and it's really like, It's even more than that. I love building. I love constructing. I love having everything change constantly.
Yeah.
You know, and when you're in the retail industry, it's constantly changing.
You can't get bored.
No,
And you're-
but no, none of the stores are doing display anymore.
Why?
They money budgets.
Wait a minute, the mall at Solomon Pond Mall,
Mhm.
we're strolling along, their front windows have the people enclosed.
They do. They'll put a mannequin and a poster,
Yeah.
but I mean, like
Nothing
with
like this.
windows, right? And even with Neiman Marcus and Ralph, you know, it's different. Not many companies spend that kind of money to do window displays.
We're
anymore.
talking with Chris Sawyer, and he is the co-author with Patricia Wolf of Denholmes, the story of Worcester's premier department store. When William Denholm and William McKay, same first name,
Yeah.
teamed up in 1870 to form a dry goods store in the factory town of Worcester, Massachusetts, they could not have imagined the 103-year legacy that would make their store a beloved New England landmark. Boy, is that true.
It really is.
And that was their stamp, the Denholm, or was that?
That was an early advertising piece. Mr. Denholm was from Scotland,
Ah.
and so they used to use a lot of thistle
Yeah.
in the early advertising from Scotland. You can see the
Yes.
thistle on the side, and the flag that they had flown on the building also had thistle on it.
That's where. So I don't know how I got it, but I have. Well, my father's side is Scottish.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a thistle,
Yeah.
and that's where this is from.
Yes.
Tell
Yeah.
us, Chris, how can people get a hold of your book?
The book is available at Barnes & Noble, Tatnick Booksellers, Preservation Worcester, the Worcester Historical Museum. It's also available online on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. I think even Target has it online.
Denholmes,
Yeah,
the
too.
story of Worcester's premier department store. And by the way, once I get through reading this copy, I'll donate it over here to the Upton Town Library. So yes, you can go to the dedicated authors wall, and you can borrow it, and then maybe go out there and buy it. So it's an excellent book. And again, as soon as I saw that somebody had written a book about this, because as a child I heard all about that. That's where Dad was going that day.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
when you started your collection, what do you have in your collection from there?
Oh, I'm so fortunate. I have lots of paper memorabilia. I have the very first receipt from the day opening.
How did
and
you find that?
I love my friend Pat Wolf. I mean, Pat Wolf has been. I am so blessed to have met this woman.
Yeah.
I mean, she
She
just
helped
means
you a
the
lot.
world to me. And so some of that's from her collection, but I have the last receipt, you know, from the day it closed. And it's really just search. I'm lucky now with the internet because it's so
Yeah.
much easier. But it was always just scouring, you know, antique stores. I do a lot of call outs, and I'm very lucky. The citizens of Worcester will, you know, write to me, email, and say, I'm clearing a house. You know, we have some shopping bags, we have some stuff. You know, it's harder to find, but like some of the big pieces are. I have like the old gourmet shop sign. I have one of the original mannequins that's been restored, directories. Like I said, thousands of paper, photographic,
Well, yeah.
pieces of the escalator. Yeah.
Who was Frank Krim?
Mr. Krim was the general manager during the 1920s, and he was a very, very elegant man. Came from Fifth Ave, and he's the one who put on the sixth floor addition and the tea room. He's the one who really formed it into what we know of as a full-fledged department store, the way it was set up with he had like a men's area where men could go in, and it was more like a smoking club. They could have their suits fitted, read the paper, smoke a cigar. The first person to have cosmetics at the front door in Worcester, you know, for stores, because at the time that was considered risque. But once the silent movies came,
That was it.
that was it. you
We were
know.
talking about Springfield, now Worcester's like sister city,
Yeah,
and the Steigers, Forbes and
Yeah.
Walls, which are no more.
yeah, no more.
But those of us who grew up in Wilbraham, we really stuck around Springfield stores. My mother
Oh,
would take
yeah.
a bus into Springfield
Yeah,
before she
yeah.
got the car.
yeah, yeah,
And Dad taught her how to drive.
yeah.
You usually don't let your relative teach you, because he said she got to a stop or something, stop sign, she took her hands off the wheels and she went, "Where are I?"
You're right, exactly.
Did you don't do that?
Yeah.
No, but she made it.
Yeah.
By the time I hit first grade, she realized, you know what, I need a car, because I'd be able to take Jan places.
Yeah.
But she used to take the bus into Springfield
Yeah.
and go shopping at, I think I was telling you,
Yes,
my
Forbes
first
and
prom
Wallace.
dress at Forbes and Wallace.
Yeah.
The basement, which was a nice place. It wasn't,
Yes.
you know,
Oh, yeah.
this is the dregs.
Yes.
This was a nice place, a little bit lower cost.
Yeah.
And she was smart. She knew where to go.
Oh, yeah.
And we were lucky. We found what I liked down there.
Yeah. But, you know, department stores back then, the thing that made them unique is that they had their own buying offices.
Yeah.
They were buying towards the demographics
Yeah.
of the area. And, you know, my grandmother, because she was a buyer for Den Homes for so long, she knew, like, you know, they could only, like, what the Worcester customer wanted to spend on things. They had a small couture salon in there. And I think it was back in 1970, it made the papers because they had a Ole Cassini pantsuit. And I think it was retailing for $3,800 at the time. And that was a lot of money for, you know,
It is
that
now.
time. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I know. But it was like, you know, but these stores really did cater. And that's what's missing right now
Yeah.
in retail. I know everyone's going online, but they're missing the experience.
No,
of
I don't.
when-
I don't like get clothes online. First of
Yeah.
all, I'm not sure it's going to fit when it gets there.
No, and that's the thing. It's not,
No.
I mean, I know it's for the younger generations. I still prefer to go into a store.
I want to touch it. I want to feel it. I want
yeah,
to see if it
yeah,
wiggles.
you want that textile.
Yeah,
that
the girls know what I
textile
mean. Does it
experience.
float?
Yeah,
What color? What's
exactly.
the feeling of it?
Mhm.
And then I want to try it on. I don't want to buy it, you know,
Right.
and not know.
Yeah, I know.
That oh.
You know, and like back then, when these stores were in business, like fashion shows were huge. That's how they would get the message across about what was new, whether it be, you know, a color, a texture, a silhouette, a heel height, you know. That's how they would educate their consumers. So my grandmother was always doing
She
fashion
always.
shows.
I wonder
Yeah.
if she knew my father. When did she leave Den Homes?
In 1973 when it closed, so I'm sure.
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, because, you know,
She was the buyer.
she was a buyer and then she was a divisional merchandise manager. So she was over all the soft lines of the store.
Okay.
And then another gentleman, John McLaughlin, was over all the hard lines. So soft lines is clothing
Oh.
and everything, shoes, accessories.
So he probably-
Hard lines would have been furniture, housewares, things like that.
But what about the gift wrap that Dad sold?
That would have probably gone through John McLaughlin at the time.
Trying to, you know, it's almost like it feels like I know the name. You know, I was a little kid. I
Yeah.
picked up on what he would tell me, what he was doing,
Yeah.
people he would work with.
Yeah, and salesmen back then, that was very common.
Oh.
They would just travel, they would go into these stores, you know, and then that's where they would write orders.
Yeah, back
Yeah.
then he was a rep. He would travel all over. Sometimes he'd be gone for days.
Yeah.
Then he kept working his way up, became a senior executive, vice president, whatever it was, in Tai.
Yeah.
And then I think was sharing with you, by the time I think I was 22, something like that, he left and went to Cape Cod and opened a print shop.
Fabulous. Good for
He just-
him.
Yeah,
Good
but
for
I know
him.
it was traumatic because he'd been in there so many years, Chris.
Well, you know, it wasn't easy. I mean, I love the past and I love history and I romanticize it, but people really worked.
Yeah,
But they had a lot of pride in their work.
they did.
And I don't see that as much right now. You know, I think corporations have gotten so big, you know, people are just numbers. But like when you're either repping, you know, a line or working for, you know, a single employer, you know, they all strove to make that store the best that it could be.
But
You know?
Dad wouldn't have met you. You were a little kid.
I was just a little
You
kid.
would not have met him.
Yeah.
And I was just about a little bit older than you, but we still wouldn't have. We're talking with Chris Sawyer, and he is the co-author of Den Homes, the story of Worcester's premier department store. And I think there's a lot of people out there watching right now who know what I'm talking about. Den Home McKay, right there on Main Street. And where again did it start?
It started Main and Mechanic,
Yeah.
where the former Shaq's clothing store was, and then in 1882 moved to the present location.
And that's been there at Main Street there since
Ever since
1882.
1882. It was the most modern building at the time when it was built. First building in the city to have telephone, electrical. In fact, there were a lot of picketers and protesters because people were nervous about electricity at the time.
Really?
And so, yeah, because everything was done with gas lighting
Yeah.
before. And so people were nervous about going into the building. Because
What's
it
your
was all
first memory
electrical.
as a kid going in with your grandmother? What do you remember?
I remember the escalators so vividly.
Yeah,
I
the-
remember, yep, going up, and she would take me all around the store. I always remember going all around the store, and at that age, I was so little that my vantage point, everything was just like, magical.
Awesome.
Yeah, but she dropped me off in the display department, and that's what I really remember.
Loved that. You were already
Yeah.
seeing something you liked.
Oh, I loved it because I was like, they're artists, they're creating. And I was so young, I didn't know, but I just knew that, like, you would see all the props and the scenery and how they were building things. And I'm so lucky because one of the, he was the manager of Display, is still alive. And so I'll keep in touch with him and I listen to his stories. And, it was a different time. You didn't have corporate rollouts. These people hand drew all the lettering, all the signage that went in the windows,
Yeah.
made all the backdrops themselves. Like, they really were artists.
So you now dress windows, so when you go into a store and they have you there, what do you do exactly now? Since not a lot of it is the window?
No, a lot of it now is more merchandising and making sure, like, to create stories within the store and then how to take those stories and then break them apart to make them look new again. It's a lot of, like, reinventing of merchandise.
Setting up the clothes to look really interesting along with a
Exactly.
purse or
Yep.
yeah, something like that.
Yep, yep. The days of window display are definitely gone.
Yeah.
You see it in New York with Bergdorf's.
In the mall here, I see it.
Yeah, but it's small. No one does it to the scale that they used to
Exactly.
anymore.
And
And
you
it really wasn't. It was theater.
You like it.
I love it.
So you're doing it now.
Yeah.
Full
I do it
time?
now. Yeah. Right now I'm an independent contractor. So between volunteering my time, and then doing that kind of work, it's like I said, I still work for the Denholm building. I volunteer
You do?
and I change over the windows there to keep them looking fresh.
You do? You take care of what they do
Oh,
downstairs?
yeah. Oh, in fact, I was there yesterday. I just took down, we did an exhibit in the post office window, and we're getting ready to change that out, so I took it down.
The post office there, not far from St. Vincent's?
Yeah, the post office now on the right-hand side of the building. Yep.
Wait a minute. The post office I know in Worcester is kind of across from Starbucks and the...
Oh, no, and then this is the Main Street branch.
There's one
There's one on
another
Main
one?
Street in the Denholm building.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
There's
Yep.
a post office in Denholm building.
In the Denholm building. Yep.
There are an awful lot of offices in there now.
Yeah, there
How
are.
many would you say?
Oh, it's so high. I mean, that's 6 floors of offices.
Is Social Security is still there?
Nope, they're not still there. The big ones are like, there's Worcester Community Action Council, which I am so lucky. Between them, United Way, Dress for Success, a lot of nonprofits, I have met some amazing people.
Yeah.
And people that I look forward to seeing,
Yeah.
and so it's lovely for me to go into the building and, the guys at the post office and talk with them, catch up with them, and, be able to help support, what they're doing because they're doing so much good for the community right now.
I'm thinking a lot of small businesses, entrepreneurs starting out, they want their window, their outside to look really good. Did they contact you?
Yep, I just got a call this morning.
How can people reach you?
They can reach me at, my email is denholmes, the number 1 at yahoo.com. That's the best way. And I'm also, there's a Denholmes page on Facebook. You can reach out to me there as well. Those are the 2 best ways to reach out for, and even if people just want a lecture on Denholmes, I do the
Yeah.
presentations and, it's all in honor of my grandmother that I do this. And I love it. There are times when I'm like, God, I feel like I work there because I've just been immersed in it.
Did she know
You know?
you were going to do this?
She passed away right before this happened.
How many years ago?
My grandmother, well, the book came out in 2011. She passed away in 2007.
Close.
I know. She knows, though. She knows.
2000, this came out in 2011?
In 2011.
So
Yep.
where have we been?
I don't it's been, and also because I was working full time for another company. So I didn't have a chance to promote it as much as I wanted to,
Well, you
and
now
so it was
can.
and now, yeah, I'm very lucky that I can.
We've just
now.
got a couple of minutes left. Again,
Yeah.
we've been talking with Chris Sawyer, the co-author of Denholm's, the story of Worcester's premier department store. A lot of you remember it as Denholm McKay. Remember my father, I was a little kid coming home from his sales trips. He was over at Denholm's.
Yeah.
Denholm McKay. I remember
Yeah.
the whole thing. We've been talking with Chris Sawyer. Chris, any future books coming out?
I would love, there are a couple I'd love to do. I'd love to do one on shopping in downtown Worcester.
Oh, yeah, you'd be perfect for that.
Because I just love it, and
Yeah.
I love that city so much. And there's that one. And then I was lucky enough to, at one point, own a house in Worcester, and it was a mid-century house, and I renovated it. And I was toying with the idea of doing a book on the builder, because they were the most modern houses.
It's not... Gee.
It was Axilla was the name of the builder.
Okay, we took a tour of a museum type of house. A guy takes care of it. I can't remember the name of it. It's not far from the art museum. I cannot think of the name of it. But it's a real oldie one, and it's all been run, beautiful.
Oh, there are some, the architecture in Worcester can be gorgeous.
We had the author of a book that was on about, did you know about the underground tunnels in Worcester? Did you know?
I've heard about them.
What is your
yeah.
opinion of that?
It doesn't shock me, because cities, when they were first being built, it was a whole different time, between wanting to get, to other buildings quicker, or whether it be for the slave trade, to try and hide. And, because in Princeton there are underground tunnels everywhere.
This is
You
what
know?
they said, 40 feet below the city. Now it's closed up. You really can't get down there. He said
Yeah.
the thing that was so bizarre is that there were like individual rooms.
Yeah.
There's been all kinds of rumors that, back then maybe the mafia type were down there.
It could have been
illegal
yeah.
prostitution.
Yeah. Yeah, anything could have happened.
I didn't
back
know, and
then.
it extends from one point behind those at the under the Palladium or something. That I love. Fascinating things about Worcester. Again,
I do too.
Chris, how can they get Denholm's?
You can get it online at Amazon.com, Target.com, BarnesandNoble.com. It's also available at Preservation Worcester, the Worcester Historical Museum, as well as Tatnick Booksellers and Barnes & Noble in Lincoln Plaza.
I had no idea Denholm's had this much of a history. Do you think we'll ever see this again in Worcester?
We'll never see it again.
We'll never see anything like it.
We'll never see. No, that kind of retail, it's cost prohibitive now. In order to be competitive, you need to be buying from multiple stores to keep the costs down. And it's, I'm involved in some Facebook groups on the golden age of department stores. And I look forward to whenever I get a chance to read them, because we all feel the same way. It's something that's never going to come back again. And what we miss right now, what we
Yeah.
don't have right
A
now.
lot of us were really still too young to really be grown up enough to really enjoy shopping there. We just missed it
Exactly.
because the malls were bigging when I came.
Right, the malls were coming in,
was it.
suburbia was taking off. Yeah.
The
and so it
Enfield
changed.
Mall up in Connecticut was
Yeah,
the closest
the
one to
Enfield
us
Mall.
in Springfield.
Yeah.
Oh, Chris, thanks for being with us.
Oh my God!
Hey,
I
if you got
can't
another
thank
one
you
coming up,
enough.
let me know and we'll get you on, all right?
No, I'd love it. I would love it. Thank you again.
Thank
Jan.
you. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.